Hello, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. After a long day for the morning, so after lunch, maybe we have some fatigue. But I think when we move to this afternoon, the topic is sports and health lifestyle. We should think what is health lifestyle. For the health lifestyle and related to the sports and the health lifestyle, what it is. So this afternoon, we'll talk about it. Talk about sports, talk about health, talk about lifestyle. I'm Bin Suzong, come from Beijing Capital University of Physical Education and Sports. Also, I'm a member of Education Committee of FISU. It's so pleasure for me to coordinate this afternoon's session. And also, I will introduce you my co-moderator, Mr. Chen Shaotong Philip Chen. He comes from National Taiwan Normal University. Also, he's General Secretary of Asia Association of Sports Industry. So it's so pleasure for me to cooperation with him. Now, let's move to the first speaker of this afternoon, Professor and Dr. Hong Chongming, Mr. Hong Chongming. Dr. Hong is the Director of Athletics Department, National Taiwan Normal University. Dr. Hong is currently the Treasurer and the member of Manager Council at the International Society of Sports Psychology. So you can see he is an expert in psychology, sports psychology. This afternoon, he will give us the title of the speech is Physical Activity and Cognitive Functioning in the Elderly Individuals and Children with Attention Deficit Hyperactive Disorder. So let's welcome Ms. Hong.
Thank you for the introduction. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'd like to express my gratitude for inviting me to be a speaker here, so I can share with you some of my research regarding physical exercise and mental health. So today, my topic is about how physical exercise can improve cognitive function in two populations. One is the elderly, and another one is the children with ADHD. I want to say a little bit more about myself. As you can see from the bottom, that I was a player, I was an athlete. I spent my 15 years, from 10 years to 25, in table tennis, and I compete internationally. And after that, I switched my attention to study sports psychology. So now I work at the National Taiwan Normal University in the Department of Physical Education as a distinguished professor. And I also serve as an athletic director to promote sports and physical exercise inside and outside of the campus. So why choose cognitive function? And we all know that we try to motivate people to go into physical exercise. However, according to the survey worldwide and also domestically, the percentage of people who are actively engaged in adequate physical exercise is less than 50%. So why, even we all know that physical exercise is so beneficial to our health, not even half of the population engaged in physical exercise. We need to know why. And we know that, especially in Chinese culture, we care very much about intellectual capacity. And in the past, the benefit of physical exercise mainly focus on physical health. So this motivation may be effective for people who are vulnerable to physical health, especially for the elderly, but not for the people who are still healthy and who are young. So that's why we need to explore other aspects of benefit that can be brought by physical exercise. So cognitive function is something we can explore. And another thing about cognitive health is its relationship with our mental health, especially dementia and depression. And we know that people, especially the elderly people who have more cognitive decline, also have a risk of getting depression. So that is something that we can also focus. And the third point is that if a person who have better cognitive function, who can learn more effectively. And then so the learning efficiency is something that is related to confidence. And we all know very well about the importance of self-confidence on the achievement of a person. So this is the three main reasons why we should study how physical exercise can change mental health. And the fourth part is about how that can affect children with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And what is ADHD? That is the most frequently diagnosed childhood psychiatric disorder. And the prevalence rate is in a range of between 5% to 10%. And part of them can be continued from childhood into adulthood. So this is something that we need to care about. It's not only for the children, but also for adults. And when we talk about ADHD, there are some subtype. The first one is the predominantly inattentive type. For this type, it's about 10 to 15%. The second one is predominantly hyperactivity impulsivity type. On this type, it's only about 5%. The third type is a combination type. So you have both inattentive and hyperactivity. And this consists of the majority. That's about 80%. And then there are a lot of negative impact of ADHD, both academically, socially, and skill development. And children with ADHD, they have a high risk for academic failure. They have a high risk of low self-esteem, and they have poor peer relationship, parental conflict, delinquency, smoking, and substance abuse. So you can see that there are a lot of problems associated with this syndrome. And also they have a high psychiatric comorbidity. And there are a lot of neurobiological bases for ADHD. Although up to now, we don't know completely what is the neurobiology of ADHD. However, so far we know there are some neural bases. For example, the frontal, striatal, and frontal parietal network that are related to ADHD. And also, we know that children with ADHD, they have some abnormal brain structures. For example, they have smaller frontal cortex, cerebellum, and subcortical areas. And they have some dysfunction in the basal ganglia. And there are some low activity in this region. And their prefrontal cortex have reduced activation, And their striatal area also, that is related to behavioral control task. And there are two neurotransmitter systems, dopaminergic and noradrenergic pathway. There are some imbalance in these two systems. And another one is the neurotrophic factor. The brain-derived neurotrophic factor has been identified as a potential mechanism in children with ADHD. And for cognitive performance, children with ADHD, they perform more poorly in the majority of cognitive tasks, especially the executive function. And executive function is the ability to maintain an appropriate problem-solving set to attain a goal. For example, planning, scheduling, inhibition, and working memory. And children with ADHD have consistently shown their low performance in this area. And also when you have them to respond to a task, they have a higher error rate and they have higher reaction time variability. Means that children with ADHD, they have a less stable response set. So, what are the evidence to show us that physical exercise can help this kind of kids? And they come from three type of studies. The first type is a cross-sectional study. When we talk about cross-sectional study, it means that there's a research design that compare children with ADHD with higher physical fitness or higher motor skill with those with lower physical fitness or low motor skills. And the first one is a survey to the parents of the children with ADHD. And the study found that significant greater percentage of parents reported positive effect of regular physical activity on symptoms. Another study is they apply accelerometer to measure physical activity level on children with ADHD, and they show that kids with higher level of physical activity have better performance in planning functions. And this study conducted by my group that compared children with ADHD on their motor ability and their response inhibition. And in this particular study, we found that ADHD children who have better motor ability perform better in tasks require inhibition. And also, in addition to the behavioral index, they also show better neurophysiological response in the measurement of event-related potential. So they show that they have better P300 amplitude. That is an indication of neural resource allocation to the task. So children with better motor ability have better neural resource allocation when they are facing challenge in an inhibition task. Another study is to compare children with ADHD in terms of their physical fitness. And the best finding was also similar that ADHD children who have better physical fitness, they perform better in tasks require inhibition. And this is the ERP index. We can see that this component is a P300 component. As I mentioned, that P300 component is an index to show that how much neural resources have been allocated to the task. And we can see that children with ADHD, they have higher aerobic capacity, or they have a better body composition, or better muscular endurance and muscular powers. They all show a similar trend that they are better to allocate neural resources when they are facing this kind of task challenge. And in addition to the ERP, we also measure their resting EEG. And in the children with ADHD, they always demonstrate that they have a higher amplitude of low frequency component and a lower amplitude of high frequency component. It means that children with ADHD, their resting brain activity show an abnormally lower activation. And in this particular study, we compare children with ADHD on their physical fitness, and we show that for those with higher power fitness, they show low frequency component. It means that their brainwave is more similar to the typically developed children if they have better physical fitness. Another research design is an interventional design. Also, that is a way to examine long-term effect. And in this particular one, research showed that between these two groups, exercise group and a control group, after 5 weeks of physical exercise, both groups improved their behavior. And on this particular study, two groups, one is exercise group, have gone through 8 weeks of aquatic aerobic exercise. And after that, we show that their performance in a go-no-go task. And go-no-go task is a task to challenge children with ADHD on their motor inhibition. And you can see from here that the exercise group improved their no-go inhibition. So this is another evidence to show that physical exercise, especially aerobic physical exercise, is effective to improve their inhibition. It's a similar design, and the difference measurement is their resting EEG. And we can see that from both sides that physical exercise is associated with low frequency component. That means that their brainwave is approaching to the normal pattern. The third design is the acute effect. Acute effect means that one session of physical exercise, and we want to understand if simply one session, less than about 30-40 minutes, where that exercise is effective to improve performance. And this study showed that compared to healthy control, children with ADHD exhibited a smaller increase in catecholamine in response to acute exercise. So it means that this study showed that children with ADHD, they have catecholamine dysfunction. And catecholamine is a very important neurotransmitter in children with ADHD. And cerebral dopamine level increased following a single session of exercise. And so this is another study to show that a single session of physical exercise is effective to increase dopamine level. And dopamine is very important in children with ADHD. And this is another study that one session of high-intensity exercise on a treadmill can improve sustained attention irrespective medication uses. So it means that even without taking drugs, one session of physical exercise is effective to improve their sustained attention. And this is a more recently published study that they also employ 30 minutes of physical exercise. And the result found that in a task that require interference control, one session of physical exercise is effective to improve the accuracy of this task, and also their reading and arithmetic performance, and importantly, the P300 amplitude. Again, that is a more efficient way to allocate neural resources to the task. And also, in the children with ADHD, after one session of physical exercise, their post-error slowing is improved. And post-error slowing is a very, very important behavior that when a person who commit an error, they are able to self-monitor their behavior, and also they will reflect on themselves to slow down on the subsequent trial. So it means that they will not commit the same mistake twice. And we all know the importance of this ability to not to repeat the same mistake. And this study shows that one session of physical exercise is effective to improve this ability. And this is another study conducted by my group that we found that also one session of physical exercise on these children, we are able to improve their pre-performance mental state. It means that without physical exercise, children with ADHD, they have a very unstable mental state. Sometimes they can respond to a task very, very fast. Sometimes they will be very, very slow. It means that their mental state is very unstable. However, after one session of physical exercise, this mental state has been stabilized. So you can see the effectiveness of physical exercise help improve that. And this is a more recent study conducted by my group. Also, we recruit a group of children with ADHD and another group that is the normally developed children. And we compare these two groups on test switching. And we measure their behavior and also their neuroleadership indexes. And we show that compared to the normal children with ADHD, they have lower accuracy, they have longer reaction time, they have higher global switch cost, and they have low P3 amplitude and P3 latency during the task. So this is a way to show that children with ADHD, they do perform more poorly than the typical children. However, after one session of physical exercise, all the indexes have improved. Simply just one session of physical exercise, less than for 30 minutes. So this is another evidence to show us that the effectiveness of physical exercise are improving their cognitive performance. So in this now research, the conclusion is that most chronic and acute exercise studies demonstrated benefit of physical exercise on executive function in children with ADHD. However, the number of studies was limited. And we all know that in order to show higher evidence, we need meta-analysis. And in order to perform meta-analysis, you need more study. You require enough number of study to perform meta-analysis. So we should continue to work on this type of study to accumulate enough number of evidence to run meta-analysis. And if we run meta-analysis, we were able to examine moderator. What are the potential moderator? For example, what type of physical exercise is more effective? How long it takes to see the effect, especially for the interventional study. How many weeks, how many days per week, how long are the sessions that require to produce the best result? And how strong, how intensive the physical exercise should be to see the best result. So these are all the potential moderators that need to be examined in the future. And also, there are some limitations for the test studies. Most studies have small number of subjects, and they have a lack of control for the severity of the ADHD symptoms. And also, they need to have more control of the control conditions. So these are the limitations they require for the future study. And also, the lasting effect of acute exercise remain unknown. As I mentioned, that 30 minutes of physical exercise is effective. However, how long the effect can last? Can 30 minutes of physical exercise be effective for 2 hours? We don't know yet. We don't know yet. So the lasting effect of physical exercise remain unknown. That is something we need to further examine. And also, the neurophysiological mechanism for acute and chronic exercise effect need to be examined. So far, we use brainwave. Brainwave is very effective, very useful tool to understand the process. However, what are the neurochemical mechanisms this type of effect. That so far not many studies have examined this, so we need to focus on that. The third one is the dose response effect. How much dose can produce the best response? As I mentioned, that is something we don't know yet, and we need to look into it. And better control of experimental design, such as RCT, randomized control trials, and currently that is the golden standard to get a causal relationship. So an RCT design is required to further examine these issues. Okay, so I will move into to talk about how physical exercise can help people who are over 65, the elderly people. And we know from these two famous magazines, Time and Newsweek, they all have a special issue. They put into a cover story about the aging society. And from this slide, we can see the brain structure between two people. One is the left side is the individual who had Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease is a kind of dementia, okay? And the right side is the typical brain, is a healthy brain. You can see there's a major contrast between these two brains. You can see that people with Alzheimer's disease, they have much smaller brain structures. So we all know that we are affected by aging process. Our brain shrink. So what are the possible approach that can help us to slow down this aging process? There's something preventive medicine. Look into it. So to manage aging, it's not only about your appearance. It's not only about you go to a cosmetic surgeon, you go to fix your face so it looks younger. You need to fix your brain so you will remain younger. So this is a study conducted by my group that we examine how physical functional capacity in late adulthood can improve working memory. So in this particular study, people over 65 were recruited. And we have them to go through 6 minutes walking test. And a 60 minutes walking test is a test that can be used to evaluate a person's physical functioning. And in this study, we show that people with higher physical functioning, they have faster reaction time compared with those with have a lower capacities. And working memory could be differentiated by physical functioning capacity in this population. This is another study that we examine how physical activity related to working memory in the elderly population. And similar recruit 65 to 75 years old individual, and we employed Stanford test to examine their working memory. And we found that the elderly individual with higher physical activity, they had higher P300 amplitude, they have higher N1 amplitude, and they have shorter P3 latency. So these three results all point to the same direction, that older individual with higher physical activity level, they can allocate more neural resources toward the task challenge. And the brain process associated with this process is faster than the individual with lower physical activity. And there's another study to further examine how physical activity type can make a difference. And we all know that when people ask you, okay, your talk very interesting, what kind of physical exercise I should do to improve my cognitive function, then we need some scientific evidence to answer this kind of question. So in this particular study, we examine two types of physical exercise. One is a type with open skill. One is with closed skill, aerobic closed skill. What are the open skill exercises? Table tennis, badminton, tennis, most of the game sports, or most of the martial arts sports. These are the open skill physical exercise. And what are the closed skill aerobic exercise? Running, swimming, cycling, these are the typical closed skill aerobic exercise. And so in this particular study, we recruited 3 groups of the elderly who are over 65. And all these groups are matched with their age, education, socio-economic status, and their job. All these type of variables are matched among all these 3 groups. And the important finding is here. Compared to the non-exercise control group, both exercise group perform better in the inhibition task. So there's no surprise to see that. However, if you look into their brain activities, we found that only the group who regularly engage in open skill physical exercise, they are able to more efficiently allocate their neural resources toward the test challenge. On the other hand, you can say that the open skill exercise group, their brain function more similarly to the young people compared to the closed skill aerobic exercise. Okay, so this is another study also examining similar issue on a different task. On this time, the task is about task switching. And we know task switching is a task that is very challenging to the aging brain, because on the task, the subjects are required to change rules. Let me give you an example for you to understand what is a task switch performance, a task switch task. If I give you a number, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, I give you a number. So in the computer screen, every time one number will be presented. And the rule, there are 2 rules. Okay, one rule is that you have to differentiate if the number is smaller or bigger than 5. Okay, so if the number is smaller than 5, then you have to press the right button. If the number is bigger than 5, you have to press the left button. So right and left button according to the numbers. So that's one rule. Bigger or smaller. Another rule is that the number appears and you have to differentiate. If the number is an odd number or is an even number. Okay? So 1, 3, 7, 9 is an odd number, right? So you have to tell odd from even. Okay? So every time when the number appears, the number will be circled by a rectangle. And there are 2 types of rectangle. One is broken line rectangle. One is line rectangle. So when the number was encircled by the line rectangle, you have to follow the bigger or smaller rules. If the line was a broken line, you have to follow the odd even rules. So okay, so every time you see the number be presented, and you see the line, and you have to decide, okay, it's a odd even or it's a smaller or bigger. Got it? So that's a test switch. So you can see how challenging it is. You have to change rule. You have to keep changing rule. So this is a test switch. And this is very challenging, as I said, that challenging to the aging brain. So when we are getting old, it's getting more and more difficult for us to change the rule. So your reaction time will be longer if your brain is getting old. Okay? So in this particular task, we also compare these three groups. The group with open skill exercise, with group with cross skill aerobic exercise, with those who have no regular exercise group. Okay? So the major finding similar to the previous finding, that both exercise group perform better behaviorally and electrophysiologically. On both indexes, they perform better than the non-exercise control group. And again, only the open skill exercise group, they show more efficient neural resource allocation when they are challenged by test switching. Okay? And the third type is an interventional study. And on this particular study, we further examine another type of open skill exercise. That is dance revolution. Dance revolution. I don't know if you know what is dance revolution. And I believe maybe you have seen that before. That is that you dance according to a computer. Okay? So you have a pad on the ground, and you stand in the center of the pad, and there are other pads surround you, and you have a computer screen, and you hear music, and the music will follow by which pad you have to move your body. So in Chinese we call it 跳舞机. Okay, 跳舞机. Okay, dance revolution. And we know that this type of physical exercise is more fun than simply just walking or running, right? So in this particular study, we compare three groups. Okay? One group, no exercise. One is the dance revolution. Another one is the brisk walking. And we recruit all the female elderly participants. And on this particular study, we found that both dance revolution group and the brisk walking group performed better than the control group after several weeks of intervention. So in this particular study, the conclusion is that exercise gaming of dance is as effective as brisk walking, and maybe an alternative for exercise in an elderly woman. And as for the acute effect, we examined another exercise type, that is resistance exercise. And this is important, especially for the elderly people, because we all know that for the elderly people, their muscle mass lose a lot. They have a lot of reduction in their muscle mass. So that's why they are more likely to fall. And we all know that falling is very risky for the elderly people. If once they fall, they are more likely to end up on a bed, and they are more likely to die if they fall. So we need to improve their muscle mass, and resistance exercise is very effective to improve muscle mass. In this particular study, we compare young people and elderly people, and they have gone through just one session of acute resistance exercise. And the quantitative task is Stanford. That's a working memory task. And in this particular study, we found that for the young people, their post-test reaction time was shorter. And for the elderly people, we found a similar result, that their post-test reaction time was shorter after that. And also their test condition, and this effect only found in test conditions involving greater working memory load. It means that if the task is more challenging, you will observe you see the exercise effect, but not on the easier task. So for the elderly, you observe only on that. But for the young people, you observe benefit of physical exercise on both easy and difficult tasks. And this is another study that we are working on. We are working on the attention control task. And in this particular study, we also recruit young and older individuals and go through resistance exercise. The important finding is that both groups, young and older group, they improve their attentional control. So we didn't observe any age effect between these two groups. But on the working memory test, we observed an age effect. So for these two studies, we can conclude that age to moderate the effect of exercise on cognitive function, and also the task type also moderate this relationship. So these are important findings that for the practical purpose, we need to look into more detailed information. What are the age group that can benefit most and what type of cognitive function? So this is the conclusion for that. So in total, both acute and chronic exercise are effective for improving executive function performance. And an exercise type may moderate the relationship when revealed by neurophysiological measurement. So this moderation effect will be observed behaviorally, but only on the neurophysiological measurement. So I think that's also the importance of employing more measurement to look into deeper side of the effect. And interventional study on the exercise type is needed because so far the exercise type is only examined by a cross-sectional study, and we need to employ interventional study to establish a causal relationship between exercise type and cognitive performance in an elderly individual. Okay, I think this is the end. Okay, I think I like to point out that you can see from the slide a lot of people in my group, and most of them are my doctoral students. And actually, these are people who do all the dirty work. And I just got to stand here and to share with you the result of this work. And of course, if you are interested in my research, you can go to check my website. We have other research project ongoing, and I'm very. I mean, you are more welcome to communicate with me, and maybe in the future we can still with some collaborations down the road. Okay, so that's the end of my talk. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hong's excellent speech. Dr. Hong was the elite table tennis player in Taiwan. Now he's a well-known professor in the field of sports neuroscience, and he provided a lot of his research and literature to prove the benefit and the value of physical exercise. Also, he shared the secret how to keep younger like him is, right? And because we only have less than 3 minutes for the floor, the questions, so I think we only can open one question. So anyone, please raise your hand. Any questions about Dr. Hong's studies? Yes, please. Behind with the white shirt.
Yeah, do you have any similar?
Wait a second, wait for our staff's microphone, please. Yeah, since nowadays a lot of senior people have some dementia and Parkinson's problem. Do you, Dr. Hong, do you have any similar research on comparison on that?
Okay. Thank you for the questions. Yeah. So far, in the elderly population study, I only look into the healthy elderly individuals. However, I'm planning to go into the MCI, the minor cognitive impairment individuals, and maybe even further going to elderly with Alzheimer's disease. But that is something I'm planning for the future. Because in Taiwan, sometimes it's difficult to recruit such kind of participants. Because you need to collaborate with doctors, medical doctors, and when you collaborate with them, they require they be the first author of the study. And it's very tough then, to collaborate with them, and because all my students need to be the first author in order to find a good job. So that's why I'm still hesitate to collaborate with medical doctor on this line of research. But your suggestion is the right direction to go, and I hope that in the future I'll be able to find a resource to conduct that type of research.
Thank you very much, because most of the doctors may not teach people how to exercise.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Okay, the last question goes to the gentleman in pink, in purple.
Thank you, Chairman. This is Roberto. Professor, can I ask you, what about the mental disease, which is not originated by any natural disease, such as PTSD? Will exercise help, something like that? At least they can, which can calm them down all the other effects. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think the question is about, I think it's more like a psychiatric disorders, right? PTSD or depression. That's quite common in our modern society. Yes, actually, there's another line of research, because I focus only on the cognitive domain or the mental function, and another line of research is about emotional domain, and PTSD or depression or anxiety or schizophrenia. These are another line of research, and actually there are a lot of studies that have shown physical exercise is very effective to ameliorate, to reduce the symptoms, and also to prevent this kind of symptoms. And however, that is not my expertise, so I only aware of this effect, but I haven't done any research on this topic. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's the last discussion. So, well, we give Dr. one more time the big hands for his excellent speech.
Also, I will give him a gift from FISU Education Committee. Now, let's move to the second keynote speaker of this afternoon. His name is Cole Pelser. Cole Pelser is a professor and a doctor and also is a director of Human Science Research Council, Cape, South Africa. He obtained a PhD in health psychology at the University of Klagenfurt, a PhD in social health psychology at the University of Hanover, and also an MA in clinic psychology at the University of Bremen. Today, he will give us a speech titled Health Enhancing Physical Activity Among University Students in 9 Asian Countries. Let's give him welcome.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I'm very honored to have been invited by FISU to present in this meeting. And I've chosen to talk about university students, since we have heard about the elderly and the children. I will not present so many studies. I'll only present one study. It is about a health survey which we have done in more than 30 countries, but it is restricted to some of the Asian countries. Here, looking at health-enhancing physical activity. And the World Health Organization defines physical activity as any bodily movement which requires energy expenditure, which could be working, playing, carrying the household activities, traveling, but it can also be sports and other activities. Oh. The definition by the World Health Organization of health-enhancing physical activity, there is two, or that is one for different age groups, but we're looking at the 18 to 64-year age groups, at least 150 minutes of moderate intensive aerobic physical activity per week, or at least 75 minutes of vigorous intensive physical activity per week, or a combination of it. Then we have, for additional health benefits, let's say high physical activity or more physical activity, so it's double of what the minimum is, of 300 minutes and engage 150 minutes in vigorous activity or 300 minutes in moderate intensive physical activity. And in addition, muscle strengthening activity of about 2 days a week. Now looking at the health-enhancing physical activity among university students, here in a study done in more than 23 countries, and developing countries in particular, we find, as we heard earlier on, that a little bit more than half are engaged in health-enhancing physical activity. So there's a large group which are not engaged in health-enhancing physical activity. Now, reviewing what can be factors involved which can improve or related to health-enhancing physical activity, we have heard already in other presentations as well that being a man or males, younger students and even higher socioeconomic status may be associated with getting more engaged in health-enhancing physical activity. The health status, we have heard about some of the health status just now, but importantly, in the epidemic of obesity and overweight in this world, there may be a healthy body mass index, a BMI. But interesting is also the perception. So the perception that you have a body weight, a normal body weight, and the perception of your health status, of a positive health status. And then we could look at cognitive factors and the benefits of exercise, that these factors are also related to health-enhancing physical activity. Then we have other behavioral factors, other dietary, let's say dietary behaviors like fruit and vegetable consumption. So if you have adequate fruit and vegetable consumption, that maybe is associated with better physical activity. Not smoking. Other studies found that higher level of alcohol consumption was related to physical activity, like binge drinking. So the aim in this study was to look at the health-enhancing physical activity in university students, in particular in 9 Asian countries. And it was a cross-sectional survey, a quantitative survey with about 400 undergraduate students per country. And the physical activity was measured with the International Physical Activity Questionnaire, which asks in the past 7 days, how many days did you do different types of physical activities, like heavy lifting, digging, aerobics, bicycling, and so on and so forth. And then the metabolic equivalents are calculated, and we can divide them into 3 levels of low, moderate, or high physical activity. And the moderate level is the minimum recommended, the health-enhancing physical activity, while the high one is the additional one, the additional benefits. And the low one is the physically inactive. We measured also the body weight and height of the students and their perception, whether they feel they have normal weight or they feel they're overweight, and their health status. And we asked them about the risk awareness, meaning that if you do not engage in exercises, has that got a link to heart disease or to high blood pressure or not? And the beliefs of the benefits of exercise. How important do you rate you're taking regular exercises in terms of health maintenance on a point scale from 1 to 10? And we looked at behavioral factors of dietary behavior, tobacco use, and the binge drinking behavior. For men, 5 or more drinks in a session. For women, 4 or more drinks in a session or on occasion. The results, we have the total sample in terms of on the moderate and high physical activity, and we have it for men and for women separately. Like we have in Laos, 28.5% have high physical activity. Also Vietnam is high. But moderate physical activity is quite high in Malaysia, 47%. And Vietnam also again. And for all the countries we see a difference between men and women, that men engage more in physical activity. So again, men are more likely to engage in physical activity. Here we found that older students are more likely to engage in high physical activity. And students, it's not so very clear here, from upper middle income and high income countries, like Singapore, Malaysia, and Thailand, were more likely to engage in more physical activity than from lower middle income countries in that region. Now the BMI, we didn't find an association here between the body mass index and high physical activity, but we found a negative association between underweight and moderate physical activity. Now interesting is that students who felt they were overweight, there was a negative association with high physical activity. So the perception of overweight was more important than the actual weight. Now the health status was positively related to physical activity, but the risk awareness, the knowledge that exercise is good for your health or related to disease was not associated at all. But the benefits, the beliefs that exercise has got positive benefits for you was related to higher physical activity. Fruit and vegetables consumption. There is some recommendation that at least two or more servings a day fruits is needed, and 3 or more servings vegetables, which were both associated with physical activity, and also avoiding fat and cholesterol. Tobacco use was not associated with any, and binge drinking was marginally associated with high physical activity. Oh. So in this study among the ASEAN university students, we found that 52% engaged in health-enhancing physical activity, which was higher in Malaysia and Singapore, which is similar rates were found in some previous studies. And it was also similar to a large study across 20 countries in the age group of 18 to 39 years old, which bring about the question why university students cannot do better than the general population in terms of health-enhancing physical activity. They are not doing better than the general population, it seems. Oh. I didn't do anything. We found some significant country differences in our study. That there were lower levels of physical activity in the students from Myanmar and Indonesia, and higher levels in Malaysia and Laos. It will be interesting to study more what could be the reasons, but some could be that there are different stages of the physical activity transitions taking place in those countries. And in agreement with previous studies, we found that male students are more likely than female students engage in physical activity. And this highlights the importance of targeting the women in the promotion of health in terms of physical activity promotion. The socioeconomic background, now coming from a poorer family background and living in a higher economy or high income country, increased the odds for health-enhancing physical activity. They were more likely to involve in physical activity, which is consistent with previous reviews or studies that higher physical activity levels go together with higher economic development. It may be related to improved access to sports facilities, but it may also be related to better health information or health promotion information. Now, the association between poorer socioeconomic family background and health-enhancing physical activity may be related or explained that they use to a lesser extent motorized transport. Well, as we mentioned, the BMI in this study was not associated with physical activity, but in previous studies it was. And underweight was negatively associated with moderate physical activity, and some other studies found that students who were underweight, they were less motivated to do exercise. The overweight body perception was negatively associated with high physical activity, meaning the perception of one's body weight is considered as more important than the actual body weight in determining the physical activity levels. The non-association between physical activity levels and the overweight and obesity in this study may be explained that to reduce weight or prevent obesity, it needs even higher level of physical activity. We found also, again, compared to previous studies, that a better subjective health status was associated with physical activity. And other studies found that dose-response relationship, the more you engage in physical activity, the better your self-related health. I don't know what this is. Oh, okay. We didn't find any association between the risk awareness, which is interesting, but you think that university students, they have knowledge, and that should translate into engaging more in physical activity, but it didn't. But rather, it was the belief that if you engage in regular exercise, then it will be better for your health, that this was associated. And interesting that various other behaviors, like fruit and vegetable consumption and dietary behaviors of avoiding food and fat and cholesterol, were positively associated with physical activity, which is important because one could argue that an increase in physical activity may impact on other health behaviors, indicating that physical activity might be a mediator in maintaining other health behaviors. So as a sort of a cluster, they go together. When you do better physical activity or more, you engage in better diet and other health behaviors. There was no association with tobacco use, although this morning I heard a study from Iran, they found an association. Binge drinking was marginally associated with high physical activity, and some studies they suggest that university students, they may engage in sports activities which promote in some way social gatherings which are supportive of binge drinking. Now briefly I want to report about a second study which includes 23 countries, which we look particularly on the vigorous physical activity, meaning the high physical activity level which I've mentioned before, in relation to perceived stress, sleep, and mental health. We had the mental health issues. And some evidence from studies on physical activity which measure self-report or also objectively measured studies with physical activity found that there are benefits of high physical activity in reducing perceived stress, improving the health status, improving the sleep, and reduce poor mental health, including depression and anxiety. We had the issue of depression. Now, in this study among the 23 countries, among university students, we found that there was some evidence in the relationship between vigorous physical activity and less likely to have perceived stress, and more likely to report subjective good health, but also to more likely to report depression. Although we have other studies where this is not the case, but in this case it was. And there was no association between vigorous physical activity and sleep quality and sleep quantity and anxiety symptoms. Now, in both of the studies, we have our study limitations, that they were not representative of the study countries we did. We only did 1 or 2 universities in each country. And it was a cross-sectional study, and very much we need more to do longitudinal studies to look at the effects of physical activity. And physical activity here was measured with a self-report. So in a large study among the students in this region, we found that there's only a moderately number of students who engage in the health-enhancing physical activity. And we looked at a number of factors which may be related and which can be used in health promotion programs to improve health-enhancing physical activity among the university students. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for Dr. Helser's excellent speech. So since we have about 22 minutes for discussions, so it's pretty interesting to do this research because it's covered 23 countries, right? Yeah. Before, maybe you can think your own question. So my interest is how can you, because the different countries use the different language, so I'm interested in you, how do you operate and deliver the questionnaire? That's my first question. The second one is, as we know, especially in Asia areas, at higher education levels, the physical activity class is required. For example, in Taiwan, required for the freshmen, sophomore, maybe in China's up to the seniors. So does it include in your physical activity? So that will influence your result. That's my 2 questions. Please.
The first question about the translation of instruments. Yes, like for example the International Physical Activity Questionnaire, you find even on the internet standardized translations, not for all the countries. So, but there are suggestions of methods how one should do those cross-cultural studies in terms of 2 independent translators of bilingual people to translate from, I don't know, from English into Lao language, and then another person who doesn't know is supposed to translate back from Lao into English, and then you compare and then agree what is the final version. So these are some of the, so it means that questionnaires were translated into the language where it was needed, like but in the Philippines it is in English, and other countries it could have been in English, but in Vietnamese it was Vietnam translated and so on and so forth. The question of physical education, we didn't ask, but the physical activity questionnaire includes all physical activities they have. We did a similar study among adolescents in the Asian countries and other countries as well. There they assess whether you participate in physical education classes or not. We found an association that those who engaged in physical activity education classes had positive effects among adolescents in the region.
Okay, thank you. So anyone you have interest to ask question about Dr. Bresso's studies? We still have time. Yeah, I have one more question for you. Maybe the audience is still thinking about the question. Can you compare with the difference between the East and the West in regard to their physical activities they participate in? different sports. For example, maybe soccer is popular, or the baseball is popular here, or the running. Can you compare these two companies?
That's a good question, but unfortunately, we didn't have the question. We only had physical activity in general. We didn't have the question, what type of sport you engage in, so on and so forth. But well, if you ask about regional differences, where there were differences, there were not really so much differences. But we have a more difference in terms of the economy of countries. So if it's the higher, upper level, middle income country or some high income countries like Singapore or Barbados and so forth, they seem to be engaging more physical activity, which maybe has, I don't know exactly, but it could be having access to sport facilities or others, better access and other reasons.
Thank you. So anyone? Further questions? Please raise your hand. Student? Okay. Okay, since there's no question, you present very clear, and can we give Dr. Pereira another big hands? Thank you very much. Before we officially close today's sessions, okay, you gift.
First of all, I will give a gift to Professor on behalf of the Education Committee of FISU.
Before I close this, we close this session, I'd like to remind everyone here today. Do you know today, August 28th, is the Chinese Valentine's Day? Yes, okay, so don't forget to send your best wishes regard to the people you love, okay? Once again, thank you for your patient attention and this wonderful speech for these two invited speakers. So, Dr. Zhong, you close this session? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. We close this session.
Et c'est le président de l'Université des sports.